hello, and good morning or evening whenever you are decide to watch this video. But this video is a response to a friend of mine that is on Facebook to a post that I posted yesterday. The post is in regards to straight black pride. So this video is for you and anyone else who will be interested in certain things that I may post on my social media account, things that I may say if you know me, if we speak on the phone or in passing. This is where all of this is coming from, partially. So here I go. I started to write you a letter that I was going to then type up and send it to you as a comment on Facebook. But now I have decided to make a video because this letter or response is pretty long. So bear with me. I'm going to start reading and then I will begin to speak. So when I begin to start reading this, I'm going to be kind of looking down. But once I start to speak, I'll be looking up. And I would try to make this video as short as possible. But it may be kind of long. So if you're busy, you can just listen to it. You don't even have to watch me. So here I go. Originally, when I read your post, I was not going to reply. Why? Because I felt as if I could not speak for my race. But this morning, my spirit is screaming for a response. There's a saying and it says, we only see the world through our own perception of it. What does that mean? It can mean a lot, but let me explain from my point of view. I grew up in a one-parent household. Did my mother intend on that happening? No. She was with my father since high school, in which they married and had 4 children, one of which is me. My father became a product of the jail system, and I could go on in details about how he fell into it and how he has not been able to shake it ever since. But for the sake of answering your question, I will not. I grew up fatherless, as many black children I know. There was almost always a child and a mother. Children, and a mother. I hardly saw a child, mother, and father. Did I know of its existence? Of course. I observed other families, whether it was in church, public events, schools, parks, etc., and or family members who had the whole family structure. There were not many. There are many issues that exist in the diaspora of Africans around the globe, but my experience is that of one living in America. Why do I have so much pride in the black family? The man, the woman, the child, or children. There is a balance when there are 2 people who come together consciously to then build a nation or family. This, my dear, is lacking for us. Where is this influence? Well, this broken system has existed in this country ever since the European stepped here. His goal then was and is, in my opinion, to break down the great family system that existed in our race. You don't believe me? Okay, well, let's take a trip down memory lane. Now, this is a trip a lot of people don't like to take, and I will be honest and say that I didn't like to take it, but now I am. And so I continue to read. The family of blacks, Africans, never existed in the European mind because we were always less than. Hell, up until the 1900s, we were seen as property, animals, not humans. And some people can beg to differ and say that we still are seen that way today. During the enslavement time, mothers, fathers, children were stripped away at auctions. It did not matter if you put up a fight. You were probably killed or beaten if you did. Now, this is where I stop. So put this down. You're probably killed or beaten if you did. Now, this began to break down what was or could have been family in the eyes of the African. So, where do we go from here? Why do I believe in straight black pride? Now, if from the earliest 1600s, when the first boat arrived here, if we had been all the way up to the late 1800s, 1865, I believe, was the emancipation of the slaves, up until that point, if the family structure that, if it did exist during slavery, had been constantly being broken apart by slave owners that felt as if the family didn't matter. And of course it didn't matter. If a woman was married as a slave, her husband was, if he was a slave, and sometimes that marriage didn't exist on plantations, but let's just say a husband and a wife were married. That husband did not own his wife or own the marriage, not like own as in property. He didn't own the marriage. If the master decided to be with the wife, he could. He could rape her. He could have sex with her. He could have children with her. Why? Because that woman was his property. And there was nothing that the man could do. Whether he was a slave, that was the husband, or whether he was a free man. These type of attitudes existed in their mindsets, and it was a reality for us. Now, after the emancipation of the slaves, did we have a family structure? Yes, we did, but there was a man, there was a woman, and there were children, and they lived together through the horrific Jim Crow laws, through the lynching and the killing and the racism and all the things that we endure as a people in this country. They were together as a unit. But eventually, after the original enslavement ended, the new enslavement began. So, after slavery, we had a family that endured the hardships together, the man and the woman, and they had their children. But we were still dealing with psychological, and still are dealing with psychological pains, an issue that we have began through slavery, which has broken us. And to this day, that brokenness exists. Now, you know that when after slavery, the jail systems began, our fathers, if they weren't being lynched and killed, our fathers and brothers started to be thrown in jail and kept in jail and prisons, leaving the mother with a child to raise. And this has been an issue. Not only did we just have jails, but then what about the drugs that were killing us? That were, if you do research and you read, that were emptied into our neighborhoods. Diseases that were emptied, poured into our neighborhoods. Our system for family is almost non-existent. Now, I said almost because there are conscious people out there who are aware of the horrible, horrific things that are people have been through are determined to stick together and build families. Families that do not reflect what the media put out of African Americans or people of the African diaspora. And I am a part of that. I believe that structurally, if we build together, we can overcome all of the things that we have been through. Now also, I realize that if we do our own research and if we read and study our history and see the greatness that exists past the slavery, see the family structure that has existed, whether it was before the Europeans stepped foot here in the Americas, because blacks existed in America, here, or if it was of the African diaspora, the people in Africa, the great family traditions that they had, knowing that it takes things like, sayings like, takes a village to raise a child. They believed in the structure. And they not only believed it, they lived that. It was part of their spirituality. They didn't have religion. They had spirituality. It existed in their day-to-day. It was who they are. It was in their makeup. And I believe that that exists in the African. And I believe that through training of one knowing who they are, that the black family, the pride, can flourish, and we can build and we can break all the chains that plague our communities. If we have just two people that consciously come together and say that we will not be the statistic, we will not be who they show us to be on TV. This is why I speak of black pride. There was something that you asked me about on Facebook, and I can't even mention that verbatim about what you meant about the other side of family structure. I don't know if you meant by the other side being two couples that may not be traditionally a family, being a man and a man, or a woman and a woman. And why is that not seen as equal? Is because I believe that just me being raised by just a mother, there's a link that's missing. Even if a woman and a woman, or a man and a man decides to raise a child, there is a link. The woman will be missing in the man and man relationship, and the man will be missing. There's something about the balance of the two, and those two being conscious of who they are, that I believe raise greatness. So I'm new to being open to learn about who I am as an individual, about learning about who I am coming from the African diaspora, learning about my history, past slavery, past it, because we existed. We existed and we were great, and we are great, and I believe in that. So if you continue to be my friend, I'm on Facebook. Hopefully some of the things that I post can enlighten you. It can give you maybe information on why I feel that straight black pride, a black man, a black woman, to raise and to build black children is what is missing to fill the broken links that we have. That maybe you'll understand if you're open to know it and to understand it. But if you're not, then that's fine, because we are all entitled to have our own beliefs. I believe you can believe in what you believe in, but this is what I believe in, and this is something that I'm going to live. So maybe I answered all your questions, maybe I didn't, maybe this don't make sense to you, and it's fine, but I decided to answer it anyway, and I decided to the best of my ability, I decided to do this. So yeah, this is just a start. Maybe it'll begin a conversation, or maybe it'll just open your eyes, or maybe you will ignore it, who knows. Either way, I respect how you feel, and hopefully you can respect how I feel, even if you don't understand it. So that's it. I just wanted to talk a little bit about why I believe in straight black pride, and why I believe that it's important to have a strong family system that is built on consciousness about who you are as a man and a woman of the African race. Thank you. Peace.